Welcome to The Glitter Effect, a podcast dedicated to shining a light on the movers, shakers, change makers, and all-round living legends of our communities who are making a real difference. Hello and welcome back to The Glitter Effect. In this episode, I'm absolutely honoured to welcome a true legend in the world of community sport and inclusion, Maurice Gleeson, OAM President and CEO of Blind Sports Recreation in Victoria. Maurice has dedicated over 4 decades to championing opportunities for people who are blind or vision impaired and ensuring that sport, recreation and social connection are accessible to absolutely everyone. He is a fierce advocate, trailblazer, and tireless volunteer. He was also inducted into the Victorian Disability Sport and Recreation Awards Lifetime Achievement Honour Roll and awarded the Medal of Honour of Australia for his service to sport and people with a disability. Under his leadership, Blind Sports and Recreation Victoria has grown into a powerful force for inclusion, community building and empowerment. And it's an organisation that is fueled by volunteers, a huge vision and a whole lot of heart. Maurice is one of the most selfless people I've ever met and is the absolute embodiment of what we call the glitter effect. He is a person who continues to shine brightly. He lifts others up and he is inspiring a new generation of glitter kings and queens to lead with purpose. It is my absolute honour and privilege to welcome Maurice Gleeson to the Glitter Effect. Hi, Maurice. How are you?
Hi, Kate. I'm really well, thank you. But what an introduction. I'm embarrassed about it, but it's lovely that you think that way of me. But thank you for that very much.
Maurice, I will let our listeners know that I was doing our calculations as we were talking offline before as well. I think I had the absolute pleasure of working alongside Maurice. I think we worked, it's probably over 20 years ago now when we started working together, and I learned so much from you, and I always speak very highly and fondly of you, and I'm absolutely so excited to share your story, your vision, your passion with the Glitter Effect listeners, and I hope they are as equally as excited and enthused by your stories as well as what you will share with us. Maurice, you've dedicated yourself, your life to the blindness and low vision community over decades. Take us back to the beginning and talk us through how you arrived in this space and then how your journey with Blind Sports Victoria began.
All right, thank you, Kate. Well, I'll be as brief as I can. I just came from an average family, like most families. They have siblings and have parents and have issues and positive things and challenging things and all that growing up. And however, at the age of nearly 13, in the school ground, I had an accident where I collided with another student in the school ground, and it resulted in a double detached retina. I learned in recent years I have a condition called stickler, which is a very rare condition, but it only requires a knock or something, like that can you can lose your vision. That's one of the byproducts of this condition. So it was resulting going. I had surgery and I brought the vision back whilst I was in the hospital, but it seemed to only last about 4 or 5 days. And when I got out of bed to go to the shower, the retinas tore away a second time. So and I couldn't retrieving more vision back again. So then from there I went to St. Paul's School for the Blind in Kew, which was a whole new journey, start of a new life for me. Whole, different world was opening up. And 13, and then I from there I stayed doing some basic education. Then it came to my future. Then I was told that I couldn't further my education, so I would be best to go and find some work. And then so I ultimately chose a factory near where I lived in Broadmeadows, which was a socio-economic a struggling suburb that I lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the factory. I'm there as a process worker, stapling boxes and putting things in disc and all that. I'm doing that, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe that I can't further my education. And then so was there, but with persevering and and I did have some setback. I studied at night time. I did year 11 now, called in English, and I thought I did reasonably well. And I was told that no, that I could do pottery, basketry, or piano tuning. And we're never going to be any good at any of those. So I'm still in the factory. I went on and did another part-time course at RMIT, and the student counsellor, and this applies to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
If we have issues or challenges, if someone believes in us, someone who comes to us and encourages us, and so she came to me halfway through my study and asked me why I was doing this course. I said, I'm just trying to improve my education. She said, but by this stage, I'm about 24 or 5 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you should be doing a higher study. You should be doing tertiary level study. I don't know why you're doing this very simple course. And I said, I couldn't possibly do that. So then she told me that with encouragement and us. So I went on to do a 2-year or a Bachelor Art course. Then I went on to do behavioural studies, and ultimately I was offered a position with the Association for the Blind as a social welfare worker, and that's where our paths crossed. And so that was the start of my, what I call more of a professional career.
Yeah. Wow, what a journey. And do you often think as well what may have happened had you not have crossed paths with that career advisor?
Yeah. Look, I'm not sure what I would have done. I think in myself, I think that I was determined to do something because, like with my initiative, like studying 3 nights a week and working in a factory, I just wanted to do better. So I was determined, but I wasn't sure what capacity because, I'm still adjusting to my sight, losing my sight.
Yeah.
I'm still subconsciously learning to live with that, not knowing what my capacity would be. And I won't go into all detail in this interview, but then in the meantime, I've had some other tragedy in my family that I'm dealing with. And so it was a very, very challenging period of my life in that time. And so there's a lot of issues challenge. But out of tragedy and challenges, I can say, I remember thinking, Maurice, if you're going to survive, you have to be determined. You must be determined to survive and find a purpose. And that was a mission that I actually taught myself in, to be determined, not to cave in, not to have to have a breakdown, which I was heading towards. And I chose to be determined. And that determination helped me a lot. And thinking that way, I guess, I've come across some other wonderful people in my lives who have been positive as well.
But that's a mindset thing, isn't it? That's not something that comes naturally to everybody. And I know when we worked together and we worked in a blindness organization, and when you'd come across members of the public outside of the organization, I think the immediate response to seeing anyone or meeting anyone who's lost their vision like yourself is if they have full vision, is immediate sympathy. But I learned very quickly that you can be empathetic, but sympathy isn't really going to help. And just working alongside you and other people who have lost their vision. And like we were talking as well, that whilst you were born sighted and you lost your vision, understanding that that's 24 hours in darkness, not just a couple of hours. It's that understanding that you've gone through that mentally, you've gone through that barrier, And the things that you have done and achieved in your life are absolutely incredible. And the same with other people that I've met through that organization. So, it certainly wasn't sympathy you're after. It's that appreciating that everyone can do anything, but it's that mindset and surrounding yourself by the right people who have that positive impact on you, which you've clearly done.
Well, that's right. And I this is what I think, or which I always try to emphasize. It doesn't matter who we are. We all of us are going to have to deal with issues and challenges and grief and loss and all that. We all have to. What we've got to try to do is we can't ignore it. There's no shortcut, or there shouldn't be any shortcut in dealing with grief. But at the same time, we have to say, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? And try to find that determination and reach out to whoever you may need to, that you might connect with, to make sure, because all of us, we should be here to strive towards a better society, a positive, and we don't live in a utopia, unfortunately.
Yeah.
However, but we can make the best of what we can. And that's what we need to keep striving for. And a lot of these things are challenging, but they don't cost money. It's not a financial issue, but it's the way our attitude is. It's really important. Focus on, and when we lose, when we lose, all of us are making have certain losses in life. The same when I lost my vision. I never focus on what I have lost. People say to you, do you ever visualize and go? I don't really reflect too much on what it was like. I don't see much purpose in any of that. I actually focus on what I have today and what I look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there's a phrase, isn't there, that it's always, look forward because that's the way you're always going. Don't reflect on the past because you're never going back. It's exactly that, but it's never, and like you say, it's almost training your brain, isn't it, to mentally think like that. But you have received a number of accolades for your work over the years, and I feel like, and I know you're very humble with these, and this is not what you're about, and this is certainly not your focus. So we've already said that you've got the Order of Australia Medal and you were placed on the Lifetime Achievement Honour Roll. What do these acknowledgements mean to you personally, and what do they represent for the community, for the blindness and low vision community?
Look, it's a very interesting question, because these nominations or these awards and recognition, certainly there's nothing that I've ever set out to do. Like, I've never set out, so I'd love to get a Spirit of Tennis Awards. I love to do it. I've never done any of it. I've just, when I received that award, I honestly, I'm not usually speechless, but I was then, because it just came out when Todd Woodridge, announced at this ceremony that I was at, and and he said, Maurice, I think Blind Spot Recreation had received an award for our tennis program, which I was very proud to be able to receive on behalf of the tennis group, and so he thanked me for it. Then he said, all right, Maurice, thank you for that. And then he said, anyway, now we have the Spirit of Tennis Awards, and all right, I think he said, and when he announced that I had received it, I was speechless because it's something I never even thought about. And then when they told me that, you're aligned with people like Margaret Court and Rod Laver and Patrick Cash and all these different high-profile achievers, I thought, I must have got this totally wrong. I said, couldn't possibly be. I said, no. I said, oh, that's nice. I thought, no, I think they made a mistake. So, what it means, look, it just means that, I guess, recognition of people with disability can achieve. People with disability can make a difference. So and these things never come alone. Obviously, other people have been a part of my journey in my life to including my friends and the people I live with and my family and my parents, maybe, because even though I lost them when they were very young, but they still must have instilled in me something that about my life. We all have impact, effects on, so they must have. So from that point of view, I'm very appreciative of them. It's not something that I can look back on. Well, we just did an order of them recently, and there's somewhere I couldn't remember that I received it. It doesn't mean that I didn't appreciate it. It means that I'm not one who just spoke, oh, look what I've done. I just live, I just continue to do it because I believe in our mission.
Yeah, which is amazing. And you would unknowingly inspire so many people within the blindness and low vision community and beyond, which is incredible. And it's the essence, and that's the glitter effect in its whole entirety. You have spread glitter by just that little small part of your life. You've done so much more as well. We've touched on it. So Blind Sports and Recreation Victoria is where you're currently at. Can you just explain to our listeners and give them a better idea of what that organisation is and what opportunities it provides your members?
Yeah, by all means. Well, for many years, as I touched on earlier, I worked with Association for the Blind, now Vision Australia, and I worked with them in the social welfare, blind services area, policy and advocacy area. But I've been there for nearly a lifetime, a long time. And some years ago, I thought, look, it's probably time for a career change. I need to look at doing something different. So I decided that I would resign from VA and maybe look at other career opportunities. I had been a president of Blind Sports and Recreation Victoria for many years, but shortly after my resignation, the organisation was successful in getting a major grant from Vic Health, and it was primarily to develop a Walking with Willpower program where we match volunteers up with people who are blind or vision impaired to go walking regularly. And we also receive a tennis funding to develop blind tennis. So we created a CEO role for blind sport. One of my mission was, up until then, primarily we were limited in Victoria and Australia of the sport and recreational activity. We had the traditional ones, which are all very important. There's
Can you just, I was just going to say, explain some of them because I love them all. But explain what they all are as well. To who may not know them.
Well, there's blind golf and there's blind cricket and there's blind bowls and they call it Swiss, but now known as vision impaired table tennis, and there's athletics and Achilles. There's a whole range of them. There's about 8 or 9 key ones. They were always the traditional sports that were available. But what I felt, I wanted to make a difference. I felt we should broaden out. We should develop new sport that people may want to take up and do. Same as anybody else in the community, you have choices of what sport or recreational activity they might want to participate in. So that's when I started to think more laterally that we need to develop. So since then, we've now developed blind tennis. Started off here in Melbourne and now is going right throughout Australia. And I was a part of the International Blind Tennis Association president. So that was a great step forward because people never had that opportunity to play tennis here in Australia in any meaningful way. Then we developed one of our vision impaired members had a dream to develop blind AFL. So he came to me with his idea and then I, initially started to meet with the AFL, and after discussing, now we have the blind AFL now played in Melbourne, Australia. Then same for blind soccer, and a lot of these are sports that perhaps weren't available in any way, or were, but they weren't continued on. So now our whole mission is that we now have branched out. We just recently took on an origami project, and that's a Japanese concept about good health and wishes, meditation form of a tradition, and that's wonderful. So we have people now developing these origami which I've never seen before, and now they're so they've been doing that. There's many different programs that our whole mission is to give as many people the opportunity to participate in recreational activity that that they would like to. And so that's what we're about, because a lot of these activities for people with a vision loss are what most people can do without necessarily any requirement of assisting. They can do it independently. But keep in mind, some of these activities, people who are profoundly vision impaired will require either a design program to meet their needs, or they'll need someone to assist them to participate in a meaningful way. So that's Blind Spot Record. We're a program provider, so we're not a service provider, but we provide program. And I have been astounded how so many people, there's testimonial, what a difference these activities have made to their life. Now, a lot of our members have acquired a vision loss perhaps later in life, in their 40s, 50s, 60s or beyond, and they felt their world has come to an end. They felt they no longer can work, or they can't drive, or they can't do the things that they used to be able to do independently, and they're being isolated or having to rely on family or other one, and becoming involved in some of our program has been a life changer for them.
Yeah.
And I
it's that essence of connection, isn't it? And that thing that we all strive for as humans, that connection, and that's the whole point, isn't it? You can't have people in isolation. It's no good for anyone. So this is incredible, the stuff you do. Is it just for adults, or do you do kids programs as well?
Yeah, kids as well. Yeah, no, all ages. There's no limit. It's just for any age we endeavour to do. We're a very small organisation, but we seem to have, we receive a lot of awards for our work and our programs. I must, our volunteers and our staff, I just can't thank them. Their dedication and their commitment to our organisation have been tremendous. The volunteers are so valuable, but our staff have been so loyal and so committed. The interesting thing, most of them have a startup. I remember one of our key staff members, she started 14 years ago now, I think.
Yep.
I remember she said to me at the interview, look, I must be upfront. I only ever stay until 2 or 3 years because I feel it's better for, career-wise and all that. And I said, no, that's fine, thanks for being upfront and all that. She's still with us. She got married, she got children. And that's because, and she said recently, she said the reason why, she had no intention of staying that long, but because she can see what a difference our program makes to these people's lives, and she's a one, and so all our staff have been so dedicated, which is really unique to have so many committed people.
Absolutely. And how many
our volunteers?
How many volunteers roughly
Yep.
do you have, Maurice?
I think we're about 280, something like that.
Wow, that's
200,
huge.
yeah, thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
what,
our volunteers, sorry.
yeah, go on.
Our volunteers are so crucial because without our volunteers, we just wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
We rely on our volunteers. Our funding, no secret, is a challenge now. Our ongoing funding, because a lot of the non-profit organisations have been cut back in their funding, so it is a challenge for us. And our organisation doesn't always get what I call recurrent funding, so we have to rely on new grants, new opportunity, donors, or wherever we can get financial support. And as you know, any organisation does need financial support. And I can assure you, having been around in the disability sector for many, many years, our organisation, our funding and everything is so important. But we also, our integrity is so important. So we do not, waste or we don't embellish anything. The money that we get or whatever is so, is committed to the mission.
Yeah. You're transparent. And that's key, I think, to a lot of any organization, isn't it? You're just being transparent and people will come on the ride.
Well, that's right. I think, we're not ones to, even when I put in our submission, I put it into what I believe is achievable. I put in what I believe we can achieve and what we're committed to. I'm not saying all organisations do this, but it is important that our integrity is what we can deliver, and the same as all our staff and people, we're very modestly paid, but we're still committed.
Yeah, which is great. And you've actually taken my next question. You're very good at this, because I was going to talk about the long-term sustainability of organisations like Blind Sports Victoria, because obviously in the business world, we always talk about being sustainable in the long-term sense. And I think a lot of community organisations and not-for-profits, maybe the smaller ones in particular, often miss that as a cue to get that longevity. And so I think hearing what you are doing, and you're acutely aware of how you can be long-term sustainable as an organization, which is great.
Absolutely. We're coming up to our 50th anniversary in 2027. So that's a milestone in our history. Now, it's no secret. I won't be around the organisation forever. I'll always be committed, as long as I can. But I want to make our organisation sustainable because I'm so passionate to what we're doing, and I just believe in that. What a difference our organisation makes to so many people, not just to the blind and vision impaired people, even our volunteers, our staff, they gain so much as well. Their contribution, the whole area of volunteering now is, I think, different than perhaps it was. It's always been valuable. I'm not saying for one moment that it hasn't been, always.
Yeah.
But I think years ago, it was a bit like, look what I'm doing for people.
Yes.
But now it's what I'm doing with people.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing with this person. It's a two-way thing that they gain so much by supporting someone. So they have a purpose, knowingly that you are contributing to somebody else's quality of life. And that in itself is the reward that you might get for your own mental health and well-being and purpose, and a person receiving it. So it's a two-way thing. So our organisation at the moment now, where, I've got to think about how we're going to be financially sustainable. So we've got to come up with strategies, how we can get, and I welcome anybody, if they come across this podcast, if they've got any ideas or any suggestion or any way that they could help us, I'd be very much appreciated. And it doesn't matter how great or small, whether small amounts or financial support or in kind or, wishing us all the best, anything at all is too great. So I'm very transparent about, there's no hidden agenda what I say, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I just think, and you, Kate, giving us this opportunity to be able to express, because, as I said, if listeners could meet some of these people who and talk to them and see how their lives have changed. We have an ambassador program. We have about 15 ambassadors, both in metropolitan and some regional areas now. And those people, they go out and talk about what blind sport recreation has made a difference in their lives. And it's not about a sympathy, it's not about that, it's about understanding how somebody's life has suddenly had to change. We have a Greek lady, she's now 15 years ago. She graduated from university. She was driving, she was working. Suddenly, through diabetics and all that, she went totally blind. She lost all purpose in her life. She was loved by her family. They looked after her. But what she was saying, she went into what she called a prison of love, which meant her family were caring for her. They protected her, but she had no purpose, apart from, her family. And she suddenly broke out of that by meeting somebody who linked her into our organisation. And she now found a purpose. So she's not relying on her family for her needs or social needs. She's got her own friends now, and she has a purpose, and she has a reason to live and something to look forward to. And because, as she said, she just thought the whole world would come to an end from, and she had no purpose. So there's so many of these stories. And I admire the people who have the courage to be able to, deal with these challenges. And I also acknowledge not any of us out in the community will have challenges, but I think a lot of our activities that we're trying to achieve are things that most people take for granted. Most people could go for a walk independently. Most people could go for a drive or ride on their bike or be able to go from A to B to do activities, whatever, to be able to read or see and all that sort of stuff. So this peer support that is really important, where people can go and, let people know there is hope, there is have a purpose in life. And you touched on earlier, Kate, in my own situation, I must, to the listeners, be reassured I have had a wonderful, 35 years or 40 years. Earlier days were challenging, there's no doubt about it, and I love life. I'm very fortunate, and the older I get, the more determined I get, and I really enjoy life still. And
Yeah. Has there been someone along the way, Maurice, that we often talk with other guests about glitter kings and queens, or people who have inspired you along your journey to be where you are today? Is there anyone in particular throughout your journey that's inspired you to get to this point?
I probably think there's so many people. It's very hard to say that if there's any individual. I guess my parents, who, I get quite emotional, but my parents, the love that they gave me is something will carry me every time, every day of my life.
Yep.
The love that they gave me, even though I lost them suddenly, that's something that I'll always cherish. And then the other one I touched on earlier, which is Kate, a boy called Pedro, who was 8-year-old. And at boarding school, Pedro had multiple disabilities, including his no sight, non-verbal, and all these things. And I was asked to care for him in the evening because he was getting out of bed often. And I used to help him. He used to disturb me, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and put him back to bed. But I always remember Pedro, and I thought to myself, this young boy, he died shortly after. He never really had much change. So that made me appreciate what we have. It gave me to appreciate at least I've had a chance to do something.
Yeah.
Where he didn't really have a chance. I'm sure we all know of somebody, but it's a good reminder to all of us to whatever we have, to enjoy what we have, appreciate what we got, and think how fortunate we are. And I put myself into that category. I'm very fortunate to have met so many wonderful people in my journey who have come into my life. And like life, there has also been, I'm not one of these people who think, there's been some very, very difficult people that I've had to deal with as well. So not all.
Not all smooth sailing.
No, absolutely. I don't want to just pretend I live because that's not the case. In my advocacy role, I can tell you I've had some very, very difficult and challenging people that I've had to deal with, and I don't understand where they're coming from. I don't understand how they can't have any compassion at all. And so it's not like that. So, but again, if I'm able to advocate for people, because I think we should have a fair society, we should have a society of respecting and not taking advantage of people, and something that I have always advocated when I see people who've been disadvantaged and other people or organisations taking advantage of them, I seem to be involved in advocacy on their behalf.
Yeah.
And I do it not to get any gratification, not to get recognition for. I do it because I think it's not right that people should intimidate other people.
100%.
So it's not all. So I'm not a pushover by loving, all that. So that's a part of who I am.
Yeah, which is great, which is why you're so well respected across the community. And I think so many things. I feel our podcast could go on for hours, Maurice, because we've really just scratched the surface with you. But we are going to wrap it up a bit now. So you've touched on so many aspects already of your journey and what motivates you. What is your one message to the next generation of glitter kings and queens who maybe they're the quiet achievers, the future leaders, or the everyday heroes of our communities? What would you say to them?
Oh, look, I think pursue your dreams. Pursue whatever your dreams are. And even if your dream or your ambitions or whatever, even if you've got to change it, there's nothing wrong in changing it, but pursue something. Look forward, be motivated to say, I'm going to set out to whatever I might. And it doesn't matter how great or small it is, but just to keep pursuing those things and give yourself, to be determined. Don't give up and believe in yourself, or surround yourself with positive people. That's what I tend to do. If I find anybody draining or difficult or challenging, or that I'm not very patient, well, I am patient, but I think we need to surround ourselves with people who give us energy.
Yeah.
People who 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 motivate us, or those sort of people, I think is really important. And I just hope that I just can continue, even when I have my own personal health challenges at the moment. However, I don't focus on it because I do what I can with it.
Yep.
But I'm very, very fortunate to keep going forward, and so that's what I think, and keep working towards that, and have a sense of humour too. I think.
Yeah, which is really important. You don't lack that at all. It's really it's really important to do that in every aspect of our life. And if I think everyone can take that and run with it. It's so important, but you've just got to keep reminding yourself, don't you? You can't. It's all well and good saying it now, but you've got to remind yourself continually. I know I do, and I try and practice gratitude, and I teach my children that. But it's you've got to do it. It's not doesn't just necessarily always come naturally.
Yeah. No, that's something that we have to work on at all the time, and again, it doesn't mean that. Look, we're all made up of different emotions and challenges. We have, happiness and anger and frustration and all those things, but we need to minimise it rather than maximise it. Yeah. So all those things, but and feel good about yourself. I just think for younger people today, I think there's so much fear put into the community. There's so much negativity about doom and gloom and all of that. There are, amongst younger people, there are certainly those really challenging and are a major concern. However, I wish we would also equally focus on those wonderful young people out there who are doing so many good things and are fantastic young people, but we don't hear enough of them. We don't hear enough of the wonderful young people who are so, so I think that there, and I've come across, and they're the ones that we should be focusing on, not giving all the attention to the ones who've got their own challenges and who, whatever they may be. But I wish we could focus more on the fantastic young people out there.
Yeah, the quiet achievers, they're everywhere, but let's celebrate them more. Maurice, if anyone wants to find out more about blind sports, Recreation Victoria, and what's available in their local area, and also if they don't live in Victoria, how do they find that out?
Either go to our website and just search us there in Blind Sport and Recreation Victoria, or you can contact us. Our email address is info@blindsports.org.au, or phone us on 03 9822 8876. Or you can contact my mobile on 0407 365 962. And so in any capacity, if you feel you are able to or would like to, or having queries or concerns or issues, anything at all, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll see what we can do.
Amazing. Maurice Gleeson, it is always a pleasure. I've absolutely loved having a chat with you. Thank you so much for taking your time out to have a chat with us on The Glitter Effect. We will be following you and your progress with Blind Sports and Recreation Victorian to see what's next. But until then, we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you, listener. And remember, love life.
Thank you for joining me, Kate Ganneil, on The Glitter Effect. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep showing up, making an impact, and sprinkling that glitter wherever you go. Bye for now.